Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. I'm continuing the story from 1001 Arabian Nights. The slave girl Anis Jalis and Nur al-Din Ali ibn Khaqah. Now, you might remember that Nur al-Din had been sent by Harun al-Rashid, the caliph, back to Basra to assume the kingship. He'd been given a letter written by Harun al-Rashid to the king, who read it and was about to abdicate the throne to Nur al-Din when the vizier came rushing up and told the king that this must be a fake letter, and it was forged by this evil man, Nur al-Din. And Nur al-Din was then given into the custody of the vizier, who had him beaten for days. And eventually, the king was reminded that Nur al-Din was still there and had him sent for to be beheaded. The vizier had a request that his name be proclaimed throughout the city so that anyone who wanted could show up and watch Nur al-Din be beheaded. Otherwise, it would have happened sooner. So this proclamation was made. Everybody who heard about it, who loved Nur al-Din, was very sad that this was about to take place. And so not many people really came to watch. But after enough time had passed, Nur al-Din was led to the execution block. And the executioner felt bad that he was about to execute this wonderful, generous man, Nur al-Din. He asked what he could get for him. Nur al-Din asked for some water. And as the executioner was about to get him water, the vizier kicked the cup out of his hand. Said, this will not happen. Just cut off his head. And so as this was just about to happen, the king saw off in the distance a cloud of dust as riders were approaching the city. And he said to wait until he could see who it was that was coming. Now it turned out that it was Jafar with 4 armed men who was with a proclamation advocating that Nur al-Din be placed as king. Now what had happened is this. Harun al-Rashid, being the busy man that he was, had kind of forgotten about the whole thing until one day he was walking through the palace and he heard this beautiful voice reciting these lines about love. And when he heard them, he said, "Who is that?" And one of the men that he was walking with said, "Well, that's Anis Jalis, the wife of Nur al-Din." And Harun al-Rashid's eyes got big, and he realized he'd completely forgotten about Nur al-Din. At that point, he quickly called to Jafar and said, "Jafar, I need you to quickly go to the town of Basra. And when you get there, if Nur al-Din is no longer alive, immediately hang the vizier. But if he is alive, bring him, the vizier, and the king to me immediately in whatever state they are in. And take no time at all except for the time for the journey. Now go." So Jafar had collected 4 men to go with him, trusted guards, and off they'd gone. And when they arrived into the city, they were welcomed by the king. And he asked, of course, what they were doing, but Jafar wouldn't even listen. He went straight up to Nur al-Din and had him untied. The vizier being there, he immediately had the vizier tied, and then a rope placed around his neck. He had all of them mount horses, which they had brought with them, and off they set, returning to Baghdad. When they returned to Baghdad, they dismounted, of course, and Jafar and the guards led everybody up to Harun al-Rashid. Harun al-Rashid was then just informed of the story of everything that had happened by the king himself. And when he heard this story, he immediately placed a sword in the hands of Nur al-Din And he said, Nur al-Din, behead the vizier yourself by your own 2 hands. Nur al-Din took the sword and went over to the vizier, raised the sword up, and then threw it to the side after the vizier had spoken words to him. The vizier said, I behaved as was my own nature, and now you behave as besuits you. Nur al-Din he wasn't a killer, and he had no desire to kill anyone. So he threw the sword to the ground, at which point Harun al-Rashid instructed Monsieur to behead the vizier himself. Monsieur picked up the sword and cut the head off of the vizier's body. And then Harun al-Rashid turned to Nur al-Din and said, ask what you wish. Allow me to grant you a boon. Nur al-Din said, I do not wish for the kingship of Basra, but what I would wish for is your constant companionship. Harun al-Rashid said, done. And from that point on, Nur al-Din was emplaced within the palace walls, a beautiful, beautiful mansion, and reunited, of course, with Anis al-Jalis, and became the constant friend and advisor of Harun al-Rashid. Not quite a vizier, because Nur al-Din did not want that position, but an advisor nonetheless, and also a friend and a companion in all of the exploits of Harun al-Rashid, like wandering through the city disguised and seeing what all was going on. Of course, whenever they got together, Anis al-Jalis was asked to play music and sing, which she delighted in doing. And so they lived, Nur al-Din and Anis al-Jalis, in great comfort and in great happiness, until, as besets us all, we are undone and left no longer enjoying the pleasures of this world. And so this ends the story of Anis al-Jalis, the slave girl, and Nur al-Din Ali ibn Khaqah. What a tale. What a tale. And what a story befitting true love. Okay, I hope you enjoyed, and have a good rest of your day.